In a world where a host can't even operate his own microphone, a suit costs $400, and nobody knows what time it is, despite the clock that's literally built into the show, one man has the courage to stand up and say, it's in time, not on time.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nicholas Lamar Suter, and this is In Time. Thank you for joining us. It's been an extraordinary day. Once again, we had hoped to get Commander McMillan. He may, as yet, still show up, but as of this moment, we don't have him. We can tell you still a great deal. There are a few questions that even I have that we were hoping that we'd get answers to from him. So we'll see if he shows up. If not, we'll I'd say dock his pay, but I don't want to draw attention to the fact that he's not paid. Cypher, is that right? No.
Yes, Cypher.
I think that's Cypher, $10 for the intro, guy. Thank you so much for that. We really appreciate it. Again, we tend to get demonetized. I was going to also, yeah. I'm not going to mention the recent events with Trump because that also tends to lead towards demonetization. And we'll talk about just the horrific events that have happened in the last, what is it now? More than 12 hours. So today began in Lebanon, rather interestingly. We believe at this point it's over 1,000 pagers. Yes, you heard me correctly. Pagers exploded. Now, I haven't been able to confirm the thousands number. That number is coming from Al Jazeera, which, believe it or not, is actually a very reputable source, but it's only the only source we've got on this right now. So for now, I'm holding back on the idea that it really was thousands of pagers. We know for a fact it was hundreds. How many hundreds and thousands, we don't know. We also know that 2,700 people or plus were injured, and now the death count is up to 9. I anticipate that to go up dramatically, just because this was PET high explosives that was in the pagers, and that stuff going off right next to you is I would assume going to be quite lethal. I saw a few good questions about how did Israel, first of all, was Israel really behind it? Every media organization that I know at this point is saying that yes, they were. CNN says that they have confirmed that it was in fact Israel. Israel has not taken credit for it, but with a wink and a nudge said yes and expect more. We'll get to that in a minute. And let's see. We don't know the mechanism for detonation, but what we are pretty confident of is that sometime in March, the leader of Hezbollah decided that cell phones were too risky because they have a two-way connection and a GPS. They could be tracked. You could, it was reasonably easy to send a rocket your way if you got a cell phone, and if they use Pegasus or something like that to locate you and turn on the GPS, track you, and yada, yada, yada. So they switched to pagers, which have only one-way communication. Now, when they did this, they ordered all their pagers from one company. It appears Mossad infiltrated the company and was able to get directly into the production process of these pagers and insert the PET high explosive into the pagers themselves. And therefore, all of the pagers that were delivered to Hamas were actually explosives. So a number of horrors that we're going to have to talk about aside, it's a brilliant plan. I don't know, Isandring, what your thoughts are, but it's pretty impressive that they were able to do that, and they obviously thought ahead.
I thought we'd gone back to like the 80s and a new spy movie was coming out.
Because they're using pager.
Yeah, then I read that this was actually real, and I was like, whoa, this isn't stuff that you normally see in everyday life. This is literally like movie plot stuff.
$10 from the Sinister Porpoise. You can use graph theory and Dijkstra's algorithm, social media and Dijkstra's algorithm, to show that someone has more than 6 degrees of separation from Kevin Bacon. I don't believe you. I do appreciate the super chat, but I'm going to disagree. Everybody has 6 degrees of separation from Kevin Bacon. That is a hill I will die on. But thank you very much for the super chat. Again, we don't know whether these were detonated by radio, by page. We simply don't know. We can't answer these questions. What we do know is that there were ostensibly 1,000 explosions today across Lebanon. The explosions were, and we have the video of this on the Discord. We're not going to show it, I think today, but you can come to our Discord and you can find it in the breaking news and following up in the news section. But I mean, the explosions were significant. They were more than just a battery exploding on a phone, but they were not huge fireballs. So I wouldn't want to be within 2 or 3 feet of it, but I think anyone past that was probably okay. So what happens next? We've learned that Hezbollah is in fact reporting significant damage to their military infrastructure. It was apparently more of the higher ups that were using the pagers, and while the death counts always lag in something like this because they're so busy just trying to save lives that they're not busy telling reporters how many have died yet, and it's pretty easy to tell how many people are going into a hospital injured. It's not as easy to tell how many have died. So I wouldn't be surprised if the death count goes into the hundreds. It may not, but it certainly wouldn't shock me. Hezbollah is reporting that this has damaged their military structure significantly. Let me see if I have that, the actual quote. But they have also said that while they're not interested in a full-out war with Israel, they are prepared for one despite this current attack. Hezbollah has, quote, lost a significant amount of its military capacity. Quote, what this has shown is that Hezbollah is thoroughly riddled with Israeli sources. The main thing here is that individual Hezbollah fighters will no longer trust Hezbollah equipment. So what you've got to do is take a step back in communications, and that's something that I'd observed when I was on the Shills. Thank you all, by the way, who came over from the Shills. We appreciate having you over here. Which is that now they have to toss out all their pagers. They have to toss out. They don't want to use cell phones. So this is going to slow them down quite dramatically. They have vowed a retaliation of some kind. Lebanon has suggested that it may declare war on Israel. Hezbollah is considering declaring war on Israel. And Israel has updated their war objectives. So Israel is currently in a war over Gaza with Hamas, and that strategy has been I forget all of their objectives there, but obviously to get Hamas out of the region and to restore to that region the Israelis that have had to move back because of safety concerns. They have said that that is their goal. They have now added to that goal, updating today, saying that they also wish to restore Israeli citizens to the north. That would be where Lebanon is and is not where Gaza is, which means they're now including as part of their war in Gaza from the October 7th attack. Part of their overall goal is now going to be to halt Hezbollah attacks coming in from Lebanon in the north. So that's a interesting statement. That's a significant. That's essentially declaring war without declaring war. They already have a war declared with Hamas, and they're now basically saying, oh, part of that war's goal is to stop Hezbollah. So it looks like now the other thing that they've said is that they are preparing for a larger engagement, and let's see, officials warn of a wider operation, and that this is essentially just the beginning of that. So what it looks like is not only are they sending missiles into Lebanon to target members of Hezbollah, but they may open up a complete front against Lebanon. Lebanon appears to be considering opening up a front against them. Hezbollah is now considering that, and there's still Hamas and the war in Gaza. Everybody having fun so far? Isandring, any thoughts?
Wow, what an interesting place. It's very surprising that tensions and hostilities could possibly break out in this area of the world, which is known for its peace and good pizza. Well, Israel's just decided, fuck off, we're done, and we're just going all evil overlord, and we're just going to attack everyone.
Well, and we've discussed this with Commander McMillan more than once, which is that Benjamin Netanyahu is essentially under indictment for a number of corruption charges, a number of charges that will land him in jail for the rest of his life. The problem is that there's a law that says you cannot indict a sitting prime minister. So they're all waiting until he gets ousted. They have a different kind of government than we're used to. And now many of our listeners are actually not from the U.S., so they understand. Every now and then it's like somebody calls me up, the government of France has collapsed, and I was like, it collapsed? What the hell? And I freak out, and I was like, oh, they've got a parliamentary system. Never mind. In a parliamentary system, basically what happens is if nobody in parliament has a majority, they have to build a coalition to elect the prime minister. And if that prime minister no longer enjoys the support of the majority in parliament, they can vote no confidence and get rid of the prime minister. That's essentially what happens in a parliament. So a collapse of government in a parliamentary system just means that the prime minister's been outed. It means his cabinet is no longer functioning, and so they have to replace it. It's actually part of the process, and they collapse every time. And right now, basically, Britain's government collapses every day that ends in Y. So the government in Israel, the largest party, the Plurality Party, is a right-wing party. It's Netanyahu's party, but it is not quite a majority, so they can't get their own elected officials in as prime minister on their own. They need help. They have chosen for this help a small right-wing group that has agreed to throw their support behind Netanyahu's party, thereby making Netanyahu prime minister. But if they ever withdraw that support, Netanyahu gets ousted and he goes to prison for the rest of his life. So this man is in a position where if he wants to stay out of jail, he needs to stay prime minister. The only way to do that is to capitulate to the far right without pissing off the middle right so much he loses them, which is somewhat unlikely because he actually is from their party. So he does have their support. So that's it. It's long, it's complicated, but the result is right now their defense minister is the only voice of reason in all of Netanyahu's government, and he has been trying to de-escalate things. This does not please Netanyahu, so he is apparently, it looks like, we're told that he is considering replacing his defense minister with somebody from that far-right coalition, meaning he's going to be a lot less warm and fuzzy than the current defense minister. So It looks like Israel is gearing to dramatically widen the conflict. They have, from what we can tell at this point, inflicted significant damage on Hezbollah's infrastructure. We don't know how many of their people are dead. I think it's a great deal more than 9, but their infrastructure has suffered because they can't trust any of their electronics anymore. So it's being described as a coup by Mossad, Israel's intelligence agency, just doing showing that they really are probably this planet's best intelligence agency. So, Isandring, again, any thoughts on what we have so far?
Sorry, I had to go and adjust Savvy. She's tied to the kite with the antenna outside the truck so that I can have good enough internet to actually be here. It's a little concerning what people will do in not only pursuit of power, but in pursuit of trying to save their own bacon. So it can get a little frustrating when people start acting in their own self-interest instead of the interests of their own people, and other people get hurt. I'm kind of curious how long Israel can keep this up before they just kind of lose the support of everyone. And that's not something that they really want to have happen. Because if everybody were to say, okay, we're just going to stop helping you and we're going to stop dealing with you, I don't think that Israel could maintain this long term. So
I don't think so either, but I don't think that's in their calculus. I mean, I agree with you.
They may not care.
Sorry to interrupt, but it was just like as you said. I was like, I don't think that's in the calculus.
Well, and normalcy bias is a thing too, and they also have the calculus of, hey, look, we're like the only, pretty much democracy in the Middle East. We're not going to get abandoned, and of course, according to the Israeli government, everybody is after them. I guess you're not really paranoid if they really are out to get you, and there's a lot of people that really are out to get Israel. It's stated right in their founding documents. So I guess that doesn't seem to be much of a concern for them.
Now, more in the good news department. It has been it's been more than 2 weeks after the assassination of it's been well more than 2 weeks. So, but Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei said that, quote, non-tactical retreat leads to the wrath of God. And he was speaking to speculation that Iran may not retaliate for the attacks on their soil killed Hamas is the head of Hamas. 𝐒𝐚𝐦𝐚𝐫. So they may still choose to get involved. Israel appears almost to be deliberately trying to upset everybody. Now, the questions that we had for Commander McMillan and the questions that I'm currently asking is, one, what is Hezbollah likely to do? I would assume he would suggest that while their rhetoric is they're going to retaliate right away, and they probably have the military ability to do so, they weren't logistically prepared to they weren't on the moved up to the front on the border with Israel, so they weren't prepared for a full-scale strike, but probably can prepare for that reasonably quickly, though I would assume their communication problems.
I was just going to say, who's going to tell the people with the rockets in the garage that they need to wheel them out and start launching? I mean, God, they've already gotten down to pager technology, and they don't trust phone systems at all. I mean, what do they have left? Semaphore, bonfires on the top of the crags.
Well, that's what I would smoke signals. Well, Hezbollah is still
is calling. They've requested our aid. Quick, man your rocket launchers. I don't know what they do. I mean, without communications, you cannot coordinate actions at all. I mean, that makes things a little difficult.
All right, and did someone ask? Hold on one second. I'm behind on the live chat because I'm going through several. So I'll catch up with the live chat in just one second. So the question is, what can or will Hamas and or Lebanon do? I think it's going to be hard to know until we know how many of them are killed, but obviously their infrastructure is badly damaged. But they're not going to let this slide, obviously, and they're actually, Hamas is considered Hezbollah is considered as a military the largest and most powerful military in the region. Now, this does include over the Israeli military, but that's only over active members. And again, we've had that discussion with Commander McMillan, which is if you include the reserves in Israel, that changes dramatically. But having said that, Hezbollah is not they're stronger than the. Yeah, thank you very much. So, the first question is, what does Lebanon and or Hezbollah do? If I had to guess, somebody is going to declare war, and my guess is they're going to wait until they've positioned themselves, but I don't think they're going to let this stand. This was a lot of explosions. I don't know how many civilians were killed. It looks like the way it was done was designed to avoid, and to the best of my understanding, none of these pagers went to civilians. They all went to members of Hezbollah, every single one. It was an order made by Hezbollah for a very specific number of pagers, and they distributed it for their use. Having said that, there were people next to them. An 8-year-old girl is among the dead. So we'll see, and like you said, Isandring, I don't know how long this can continue. Then they've got the problem of dealing with Hamas on so it's now their northern and their northeastern front. So good questions for Commander McMillan. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to join us, so all I can do is tell you what we know so far. Obviously, tomorrow we're gonna learn a lot more. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna check with the live chat and see what I think somebody was. Let's just let me. Instead of speculating, let me see. The explosive story is actually confirmed. It is confirmed. They have. So let me see where. I mean, it's confirmed on a number of sources by now. CNN has it. AP has it.
Well, yeah. You can watch it too, and you know anybody who was alive 10 years ago through the wild upswing in e-cigarette use, you've probably seen in the news or online what it looks like when a lithium ion battery overheats and catches on fire and quote unquote explodes. It's like there's plenty of videos of that happening. And then you can see the videos of these pagers, which have a significantly smaller battery than a lot of these e-cigarettes do when they explode. And there's no comparing the two. That was one of the things that I guess brighter minds got to that a lot faster than I did. But that was the first thing that stood out to me when they were saying, the speculation was still, oh, this might have been some sort of cyber attack where they hacked them and caused their batteries to overload and blow up. And then I saw videos of what these things look like blowing up. I'm like, yeah, that's not what happens when a lithium ion battery of that size blows up. It's like so then I was digging for more of that, and then I happened to talk to you earlier just before you went onto the shills, and I was like, yeah, this isn't making sense to me. This isn't adding up. And you're like, oh no, it's already been confirmed. And I'm like, damn it. So much for my sleuthing skills while driving down the highway at 70.
The only thing that is, and let me just see, unless, okay, so they've got it was the Gold Apollo model. So it's been confirmed that, and I'm trying to find the original report. I think it was it this the Guardian? No, that was another article. The only thing that in my mind is not confirmed is that it was PET, high explosive. It was a high explosive of some kind. It's the New York Post saying that it's PET, high explosive. And the Times of Israel told Sky News that the PET was actually embedded with the battery, or sorry, PETN, high explosive was embedded with the battery. So this is hearsay of hearsay. Apparently it got to Sky News, and I think I had seen Sky News at least confirmed that there was explosive in the pagers. Nobody knows how they were detonated, but Mossad did intercept them at the production level while the pagers were being produced specifically for Hezbollah, and that's been confirmed by multiple sources. So I hope that
and the
answers
fact
the
that
question.
they were able to get into that supply chain, make those modifications, and still make delivery without raising any suspicions on the other end is pretty amazing. Especially when you're dealing with high explosives, making sure everything's hooked up correctly so they will go bang when you want them to go bang. So it's not like this is oh, let me grab this and do a quick twiddle to or here. That made no sense. A quick fiddling around with this device for a moment and then we'll send it on its way. No, they got to pull them apart. They've got to set the explosive where it needs to go. They have to hook the detonator up correctly, make sure that everything, the detonators are all working. And they did a lot of these things and were still managed to be able to make production times without, significant suspicion being raised. That's pretty impressive.
Well, like I said, so there's one. Okay, so well, actually, there was a couple of minor things I missed. Minor only because they're technicalities. Hezbollah has said that they will hold Israel fully responsible for the deadly blast, so that's their official statement. I think that goes without saying, but they have put out a statement saying that. Israel's war cabinet has agreed, we already did that, to expand the war objective to include the return of residents of northern Israel to their homes. So that would be, again, sorry. Let's see, that would be...
That was a genuine squirrel moment.
Yes, it was. It was just captured on. Yep. But it's what we said earlier. According to Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office, Israel's war cabinet has agreed to add the objective of the safe return of the northern Israelis to their homes. So that's the bound. On their north is Lebanon, and that's where Hezbollah is, and so they have literally said that incorporating on their current Gaza fight, they are going to add to that as part of its goal a completely different front. I mean, that's essentially like us saying, okay, as part of our war with Japan, we are also adding a goal to take Berlin, which admittedly. It did end up all being one war, but they're not declaring a separate war so they're just like, okay, we're adding you guys to this unrelated. If this is all about October 7th, it's like, why are they involving Hezbollah and Lebanon? Okay.
Yeah,
again,
it seems like it's a convenient to tack an added goal. Hey, we've kind of wanted to do this for a while. This seems like a good time to try and just tack this on at the end here. Kind of like how, after 9/11 and we went into Afghanistan, then we're like, hey, this just seems like a great time to try and kind of tack on Iraq. I mean, I look at the stuff that the United States has done, and then I try and contrast with Israel and what's going on there, and try and think about, it's like, what would happen if that was happening here? What if all of these, third world governments and guerrilla groups that the U.S. has tried to fund or has tried to manipulate in some way or another to our own benefit, decided they were going to start launching rockets across the Texas border? I don't think that the United States would have shown as much restraint with that as Israel has. Okay, well, we'll build an iron dome system around it, and we'll do some retaliatory strikes. We'll throw some people in there, and it's going to be a mess. And I don't think the U.S. would do that. I think the U.S. would go in and just wipe those people out, even whether they were in Mexico or not. And so it's it gets really difficult because the web gets so tangled over there. I mean, well, it's tangled for us too, but there's Israel isn't exactly innocent in some of the actions it precipitates by its own actions. But I still don't think that the U.S. government would put up with that. I do believe that we would essentially level the place, and Israel is just now starting to step up to those kinds of tactics that I would imagine the U.S. would use if this was happening on the North American continent. So
yeah, but
and everybody's getting like, oh my God, Israel is so warmongering, and yeah, maybe they are, and maybe they're sick and tired of rockets being launched into their country.
Admittedly, but my concern in Gaza is the humanitarian crisis, and while it gets so entangled in a mesh. This is why I wish Commander were here, because he understands this far better than I do. So far, the retaliation for the October 7th strike has killed upwards over 10 times. It's getting close to 20 times the number of both military and civilian casualties that Israel had suffered, and there's still the hostages. And I agree that you need to respond and protect your territory, but the situation there is pretty dire in terms of water, food, and civilian casualties, and it seems to have been a far disproportionate response. Now, again, the U.S., well,
maybe Israel is simply taking a page from the United States playbook and deciding that, hey, after a terrorist attack that devastates a population, that kills a significant number of your own people, the kind of retribution that's going to be forthcoming over the next decade. I mean, maybe they're just emulating us.
That's a discussion we should have, but I think I'll save for another time. I'm not sure I'd agree with that. I would very much like to hear Commander's thought on that. But at any rate, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to cover what we know so far, what we're hoping to learn in the next 24 to 48 hours. And again, we'll have a downtime on Thursday. So we will hopefully have Commander back for that. He is scheduled to be on for that. So believe me, we'll ask him these questions. So what has happened today is depending on the source you go to, anywhere between several hundred to 1,000 pagers exploded in Lebanon. Why pagers? Well, in March, the head of Hezbollah decided that cell phones were too risky. They could be easily tracked. They could be hacked by Mossad, and the GPS could reveal the location of different members of Hezbollah. So they switched to pagers, which only receive but do not send. Obviously, that makes communication a lot harder, but is a lot, well, I was about to say is a lot safer.
I don't. Yeah. You might want to check those kinds of thoughts. But it's a lot. Well, we need to rethink this. And possibly, maybe you should explain what a pager actually is. I have seen many TikToks where, it was the battle of the generations, and somebody brings up the Gen X generation representative brings up pagers, and all of the millennials, Gen Y and Gen Z, are like, "What the hell is that?"
Yeah, that's a really good point. I hate it when I end up having to show my age. Pagers were the precursor to cell phones. Doctors and nurses actually still use them even in the U.S., and they actually prefer them to cell phones because they don't want to be disturbed. All a pager is a number where you call that number, you leave a message and or a text message that you can have, and that text message is received by said pager. That's it. So if you just, the reason doctors use it, of course, is they have their pager on them, and if the doctor is suddenly needed, you call the pager number, and the doctor gets the beep and then knows that he's needed and goes back to the hospital. That's it. That's all a pager is. The pager can't transmit anything. It can just receive messages. It depends on the complexity of the pager. Yeah, our floppy disks next. I could just see like a warning, be careful, floppy disk may explode when inserted. It's really old school technology, but it doesn't have GPS tracking. It doesn't transmit any information. So there's no way to track somebody who's got a pager. Somebody who's got a pager, and they'll receive the signal from, pretty much anywhere in the world. So, if you want to page somebody who's, as long as the pager's on a network that's wide enough, you could page anybody you want to. Anywhere across the world. So they've been using pagers basically ostensibly just to send messages back and forth. They're almost being reduced to the age of the typewriter essentially too, because it's you can, on a lot of pagers you can text out a message or leave a verbal message, but that they can't hear it in real time. They got to
yeah, well, we're going to get back to World War II, drop boxes and coded messages over radio broadcasts that you have to then decipher. I mean, that's kind of the next step backwards that they're gonna have to go to.
Well, it'll be that in carrier pigeon. I don't. If carrier pigeons start carrying like thermite or other high explosives, that's it. Civilization's done. So at any rate, somewhere between several hundred to 1,000 pagers exploded. Pagers are usually kept right on your side, so most of the injuries we're seeing are to the hands, the stomach, the abdomen. We don't know how many are dead. The official count right now, last I saw, is 9, including an 8-year-old child. The pagers all did belong to members of Hezbollah. It was Hezbollah that had decided in March they didn't want to use cell phones anymore. They wanted to use pagers. They placed an order with a very specific company for pagers, and it looks like at the actual production level as they were being produced, Mossad was able to get high explosive, PET high explosives inserted into the pagers. We don't know how the timing or the detonation was determined, but they all went off today. So we do know that Hezbollah's military capacity has been significantly degraded. They've admitted that and said that they've also had to basically get rid of all of their communication devices, pagers. Those that did have cell phones, I assume, have gotten rid of those. How they're going to recover, I don't know, but they have vowed that they will retaliate. Lebanon has suggested that they will go to war with Israel, but we don't know if that is going to happen. And really, I don't even know what their military looks like. My understanding, if I recall, is that usually their military is Hezbollah. Hezbollah is essentially the strongest military power in the region, absent Israel. So I don't know if Lebanon is even really capable of staging any significant kind of attack. I do know that this has been condemned by a number of other countries. Egypt, the U.S., and Qatar are working to try to de-escalate this. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen for a number of reasons, but one of the biggest ones, ideologies aside, is Netanyahu can't allow it to happen or he goes to jail. Strange as it is. So
that does make for quite an incentive to keep things going.
It does. Well, and it was what was it? It's actually not unlike the situation Trump is in, where Trump is basically facing, if he gets elected, he can get a lot of the charges against him. Anything that's federal dismissed. Anything that isn't federal, he may try through the Supreme Court to get dismissed through whatever, immunity for the president, whatever he's going to try to do. So his only chance of staying out of jail is becoming president and then pardoning himself. That's probably, I think he hates the job. I think the biggest reason he's running at this point is he goes to jail if he doesn't. I don't know, does that make sense to you, or what do you think?
And ego.
And ego. And ego goes basically with everything you can say about Donald Trump. Donald Trump builds his towers because he wants to make money, and ego. He orders a hamburger with a side of ego. Ego is associated with everything. Yeah, as long as Bibi's in power, that's correct. There's no de-escalation. He has to do what the far right tells him to do, and the middle doesn't appear interested in ousting him. So I the prognosis, as far as I can tell, from several organizations, including especially the AP. Let me just check out right now. AP.
Much Israel like that says old song. Oh, go ahead, finish.
Israel says halting Hezbollah attacks is now the war of a wider operation. They're basically saying that at this point it looks like it's about to ignite an all-out conflict between Israel, Hamas, and Lebanon / Hezbollah, all simultaneously declaring war.
And of course, if you're dragging those two entities, Hamas and Hezbollah, into it, then ultimately you're picking a war with Iran too.
And that's why I think the Iran has not responded to the assassination on their soil, and they may, if they want to do something, now's the time, because Hezbollah is pissed. Not right now. So once Hezbollah recovers. And I think what we're looking for over the next couple of days is to assess how many members of the upper echelons of Hezbollah have been killed, how much of their infrastructure is intact, and how many have been killed, how much of the infrastructure is intact, and then what they plan to do with it. So now, it was asked earlier, and I think this is a good question, about how were these pagers detonated. And the initial theory was that they were detonated by the use possibly by the use of a program called Pegasus. Now, Pegasus is something that isn't talked a lot about in mainstream media. I think it's extremely important. It is Pegasus is, in my view, the most dangerous software ever invented by man. It was invented by Israeli intelligence. They actually sell and license Pegasus out. They've licensed it to Mexico. The U.S. has not confirmed it's been licensed to the U.S. It's been licensed to the U.S. And Saudi Arabia, we know, has a copy of Pegasus. We know because that's how they found and killed Khashoggi. So I know it seems a little off topic, but we will circle this around. But what do you remember about Pegasus? Because I know you've been with us on that discussion, and it's terrifying software.
I remember discussing that in Stuxnet, and now I'm getting the two of them confused because it's been a while since I had to go look at which one did which.
Well, in the Stuxnet,
the existence of both kind of came out at the same time.
Yeah, so Pegasus is software that can hack any phone on the planet. Now, Israel has said that it actually can't hack U.S. phones because the U.S. phone system is different than every other phone. That is utter horseshit. That is not true, but they have said that, and I think they've said that essentially so that the U.S. government will look the other way as they create and use and license this software. We've done a show on Pegasus, so you can look back, and we've got a whole list of the information as it came out. There was it came out in drips and drabs until a purported list of 5,000 phones that had been hacked by Pegasus came out, and the research work on that was spectacular, and every number that they were able to contact we'll get into that in a second. What Pegasus does is it allows the user to access any cell phone in the country. It allows them to turn the GPS on or off. It allows them to turn the camera on or off. It allows them to turn the mic on or off. And it allows all of this while suppressing any notification that this has been done. It allows the relay of all of this information back to Pegasus. Now, when Khashoggi, who was a Washington Post reporter, was assassinated in the men's room of I think it was the U.S. consulate in Well, which consulate? Somebody in the live chat will know, so I'd better bring the live chat back up. But he was when he was assassinated, there was a question of how he was found. He was assassinated by the Royal House of Saud. And, I can't find a live chat. There we go. He was assassinated by the Royal House of Saud. And the question was, how did they find him? Well, it turns out that Pegasus does leave a trace on every phone that it was used. And there was traces of Pegasus on his phone, his girlfriend's phone, and on the phone of the lead investigator who was investigating the murder of Khashoggi. So, and this all sounds like conspiracy theory stuff. I know. It's not. This is New York Times stuff, and you can find it in the New York Times. One of the things I really appreciate about this show, and I love doing about this show, is taking really big stories that are being ignored for whatever reason, and Pegasus has been a passion of mine, and therefore, by extension, Isandring's, because he's required to at least pretend to care about whatever it is we're talking about. My condolences.
Yeah, once you started talking about that, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that show, because that was pretty screwed up. And so while we happen to be here, everybody just go ahead and wave and say hello to your NSA people that have now captured all of this and are listening to us. Please have a coffee, sit down, chill out, enjoy the show.
And we have all our sources on our Discord, so if you want to join our Discord, see the sources for Pegasus. You can also if you look it up, you can find it. It almost seems conspiracy theory-ish. Somebody leaked a list of 5,000 numbers that was purportedly numbers that had all been hacked by Pegasus. Every number that they checked, and were able to contact the person who and I forget who was doing this. It was either the Times, or it was a reputable and mainstream news source. They were able to had Pegasus on this. We still don't know where that list came from. It may have even come from the Israeli Defense Department. Now, the Israeli Defense Department, the Minister of Defense, was required to sign off on sales of this software to any country that got it. And Saudi Arabia, for obvious reasons, was barred from ever having this software. And the software has to, at least according to the Israelis, be relicensed every single year. And if they pull the license, the software won't work. Well, somehow it looks like Saudi Arabia wears versions of it. I don't know, but they appear to have it. Mexico has it. It appears that it was used to kill a reporter. The Pegasus software was on her phone, and the log showed that the GPS had been turned on, and that data was being transmitted somewhere, and then she was killed by a drug cartel. So I think by that show, and we haven't really dived into Pegasus in a while, but by that show, they had identified at least 5 journalists and or advocates in free rights advocates in the UK, Mexico. I don't think they did find any in the U.S., if I recall, but and in Saudi Arabia, who had been discovered by this software and subsequently killed. So, in my view, it's the single most scary and probably powerful software on the planet. It was developed by the Israelis, and they licensed it out. And now their license says that it can only be used against terrorists. And I forget who else. We got a copy of the license. And again, if you look in our past shows, you can find it. Why I'm bringing it up now, hopefully it's starting to become clear, but we'll get to it in a minute. Having said that, the head of the defense minister at the time, and I forget who that was asked how do they enforce the policy that you can only use this against terrorists, and that this is a tool for fighting terrorism, not a tool for fighting, people who were speaking badly about you in the press, or YouTubers that you don't like Isandring, or anything like that, because you have a GPS on your truck, right? I'm just saying. He's in charge of the show.
I've got several GPSs in my truck.
If you like the show, by the way, please like, subscribe, and remember, my name is 𝐒𝐚𝐬. If you don't like the show, please remember, like, subscribe, and the owner's name is Isandring Person. Just letting you know. So, yeah, I think we got our bases covered. Just remember to that's all you got to do.
Conditional ownership. You heard it here.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, exactly. That may be contractually binding. Oh, shoot. I could be... Is there a delete button? Okay.
Not on the internet.
Is there a gaslight the audience button where it's just like, okay, you never saw that conversation absolutely never happened. Terrorists aren't good with terrorists don't always follow, in my experience, like the like terms of service. I'm just saying. And the Royal House of Saud does not follow the terms of service. Now, how they got it, ostensibly an enemy of Israel, is a very good question. It looks to me like Israel did, in fact, license it to them, that with enough money, Israel will look the other way even for. I don't know. The U.S. is confirmed to have it. The U.K. admitted to having it. Mexico, I think, had said that they gave up their license to it, that they had it for 1 year and then gave up their license. That appears to have been a complete lie. At any rate, Pegasus is the scariest and most dangerous software that you've never heard of. Again, look it up. We have a lot of info on our show. We should probably make a channel for it, actually. And then on top of that, we've done a couple shows on it. Now, this episode that you're seeing right now was originally entitled, Israel makes another cyber warfare breakthrough, because it looked like these pagers were triggered remotely, possibly by something similar to Pegasus, whereby Pegasus might be used to, say, hack the pager and then cause the pager to do something. We got initial reports that I still actually don't even understand, of the pagers heating up before they exploded. Now, if you have PET, I'm missing, what's the letter I'm missing? PETN, I think it is. High explosive in there. I would imagine just an electrical charge will detonate it. I don't know why they'd heat up, and people were actually able to get them off in time. So that struck me as somebody had figured out a way to remotely short the battery. We've all had our phones heat up, and if you could trigger some kind of recursive loop, I just literally used, Porpoise is going to be delighted, I used recursion in context in the show, some kind of recursive loop, some kind of infinite loop, whatever it is that you're doing to get the software running, heat up the battery, and then I don't know. We finally found out that wasn't the case, that there was actually explosives inserted into it. But between Stuxnet, I got that.
Stuxnet.
That's what he said. He's got it right. Thank you. So between that and Pegasus, it looks like Israel really has become basically the cyber warfare, and the Stuxnet virus was a virus that caused the centrifuges that were being used in Iran's nuclear program to run while not balanced, which caused them to basically self-destruct. You have to balance a centrifuge, and even if you have, like, let's say 1 vial of blood, they put in a vial of water on the other side of the centrifuge so that it's balanced. If it's unbalanced, the centrifuge will literally destroy itself. And this got them to run unbalanced and it set their program back. I forget by how much, but not as much as you'd think. I think they reported getting set back 6 months, maybe a year. You'd have thought it was more, but it was still impressive, and it was, it was something that, if I recall, originally they didn't even actually get direct access through to get in. It just actually self-replicated. It was a virus and got in and took out the centrifuges. So all of this is remarkably impressive, and Mossad has been for quite some time regarded the single most powerful intelligence agency on the planet, even in exceeding the CIA. That they were able to get that explosive on hundreds, if not thousands, of pagers, I think supports that. So take a look at the Pegasus show if you're interested in that. Like I said, it's phenomenally scary. I do understand why they were using pagers, and I think Pegasus was probably their principal concern. Hezbollah realized that, all they need is your number. They need to know who you are, and they can turn your phone on, figure out what your GPS coordinates are, plug those into a missile, and there you go. You're going to have a bad day, is what I'm saying. So that's why they switched to pagers, was the Pegasus program. So I don't know. I think that about covers it. Like I said, unfortunately, we weren't able to get Commander McMillan here. Commander McMillan, we are going to ask him what are the chances this escalates into full war. There is a 50-50 chance that by the time I get a chance to ask him that on live air, we'll already have an answer.
I was going to say, we'll already know the answer.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're just joining us, the last time I'm going to say this, anywhere between several hundred to 1,000 pagers exploded in Lebanon. These pagers were all owned by members of Hezbollah, which is a recognized terrorist group and has been attacking Israel from the north. Not all of the victims are members of Hezbollah. The explosives were strong enough to injure people nearby, and in some cases, they left their pagers at home, and in one case, it looks like a man left his pager in his home office. His 8-year-old daughter was there and was killed. So there's obviously really havoc in Lebanon right now. Anybody who's a member of Hezbollah, which is a significant number of percentage of the population, is staying away from all communications devices. So it's nothing but chaos. We know very little except that 9 are dead and at least 2,700 injured in these explosions. Israel has said it is expanding its war in Gaza to include the recovery or the stopping of Hezbollah attacks in the north and the recovery of land that they have lost due to having to pull their people back so that they're not all killed by Hezbollah attacks. That seems to represent a significant escalation. Israel has suggested that it is going to continue to escalate, and it looks like they're going to replace their current defense minister with one who is far more aggressive, and that is what we're looking at. And as we've said before, that's a number of reasons. We all know that a lot of this is arguing really over who was promised what land by God. For Benjamin Netanyahu, it's the longer he can keep a crisis going and he can keep the far right satisfied, the longer he can stay out of prison. And it's really that simple. And he doesn't really care how many people he kills, and the far right is happy with it because they really do think God owes them the land. So that's where we are. Any final thoughts before we go, Isandring?
Much like the classic old country song, "You picked a fine time to leave me loose wheel," you picked a fine time to come back. Covering news events, because it's definitely not been boring.
And we nearly covered the first assassination attempt, and obviously, I don't want any assassination attempts on anyone, but I was like, I was bummed that we weren't able to cover it, and I was like, well, that's it. And I was like, wait, somebody's trying again? Wow. I guess we can cover that live. Lucky, I guess. I don't know how to feel about this, but we'll cover it. So, and if you're new to the show, we do breaking news. This wasn't supposed to be as much breaking as really getting on Commander Lance McMillan to talk with us about what's going to go on from here. We've been sort of covering this, especially on the Discord, all day. but unfortunately he just wasn't able to make it. He had a surgery. Sometimes we can get him, sometimes we can't, but we'll be back to our regular schedule with that. In the meantime, also, those of you who are new, when we do breaking news, we often beat many mainstream media sources. We're very proud of that. If you want to be a part of that, come in and check us out on the Discord and see how we operate. We especially with Ukraine too, we've managed to do breaking news hours in some cases, once a day or two ahead of even Associated Press, Reuters, and any of the other mainstream and those are actually Reuters and AP are the only really reliable ones. New York Times is a close second. Washington Post is pretty good. It starts to decline pretty rapidly from there, but and then UTV and Ham KD9W gifted 1 membership. Thank you very much for that. We really appreciate that, and it's good to see you all. And love President Sunday. He's been on many times, not many times, five or six times, as has Brooks, and Brooks is usually with us for a lot of our political coverage, and I'm hoping Brooks will be joining us for our coverage of the 2024 election, which we will be carrying live. He was with us for the debate, which was a lot of fun. I haven't had that much fun on a show in a long time. The number of times we fell out of our seats laughing, especially when Kamala gave him that look. So, all right, thank you all for joining us. And, I just realized, that's interesting. All right, well, I'm gonna need 1 second, because we did have, speaking of, so I've got a little controller here, and it started overheating, and the fan kicked in, and I was afraid that everybody could hear it, and that it was going to be difficult to hear me with the fan running, so I turned it off. Actually, I wonder if I can just turn it on, but that also just means that hopefully this isn't going to explode. I got to tell you, I'm going to be a little paranoid. I'm going to be like, okay, where did my technology come from? And there was that meme that was going. It was the hashtag Hot Pockets was trending on Twitter earlier. Like, okay, well, that's unfortunate, but it's also funny. That and Elon Musk suggesting that people should kill Kamala Harris was certainly not funny, but that's another show.
Again, you picked a great time to come back. I mean, it's like we're having to now vet which stories are we going to cover now, because there's a plethora of them out there.
Yeah, Elon Musk tweeting, "Why aren't they trying to kill Kamala Harris?" Was really fucking stupid. And the guy, by the way, I mean, there are eccentric geniuses, but just because you're eccentric doesn't mean you're a genius. And I think he's a spaghetti at the wall kind of guy. I think he does just a million crazy fucking things, and then if any of them works, he takes credit for it as if that was the whole plan from the beginning at the whole time. The Secret Service has said they're aware of Elon Musk's tweet, and then, oh my God, so Elon Musk said that, and then the New Hampshire Libertarian Party posted to social media, "Anyone who kills Kamala Harris is a hero." I shit you not, that's what they posted. They then took that down and posted, quote, "We had a post earlier, but we took it down. We were concerned that we were violating terms of service, and so we have corrected the issue." They took it down because of TOS concerns. That's why they took it down. Holy, wow. And then they went on to say something about how it's obviously not America anymore when you have to worry about TOS services over free speech. Holy shit. Yeah, it's been an interesting day. That's what you always do. You're always telling me to live in interesting times. Well, it worked. Thank you.
Yep. It will be
all right.
Be interesting times.
So thank you all for joining us, and we will be back on Thursday for Downtime with Commander Lance McMillan. I don't remember if we invited Brooks to that one. Brooks has been on Downtime a few times, and we've been asking to have him back on as we get back and and running. So we'll see about that. And any breaking news, you can usually find us covering it. And I'm very proud of our coverage. And I think if you look at what we've been able to do, you'll see why. Thank you to the mods. Thank you to all of our researchers. Thank you, Isandring, for the short notice and coming in. I had hoped would be doing more with Commander McMillan, but again, just not available. These things do happen. Thank you to the live chat. Thank you for the gifted membership, and we look forward to seeing you all Thursday or the next time something really crazy happens, which is, oh dear Lord, I remember
later
the week
tonight.
Yeah, I was about to say, well, when Iran started firing rockets into the green zone in Iraq. First of all, I'm proud to say we beat every news organization except Al Jazeera. Fox came next about 4 minutes after we were live. And then CBS, ABC, NBC did that. CNN took them like an hour before they started covering it. So we were covering it. But between Trump then saying that the Iranian ambassador couldn't go to New York, which is a violation of like our fundamental, like the UN's lease with the country. Between him advocating for war crimes by saying we're going to destroy all the cultural, saying that we're going to, just all that shit. We would literally be in the credits. And as the credits were rolling, we had to go out and say, okay, we have more breaking news. 2 F-16 fighters have gone. And that was the week too when it was a Ukrainian passenger jet was shot down over Tehran. That was a long week. Yeah. So thank you for that, because you've now jinxed us. All right. We're going to make it through the credits.
I mean, it's going to be like this through the rest of the year, at least.
Probably. Okay. I think we're going to make it through the credits. Let's find out. Thank you so much for joining us. It was really good to have you all here. We appreciate the support. See you soon. Good night.